Hello everybody, it is your boy Rune LC, and today we are going to do something different on this channel. I wanted to start doing guides, since, that was something I just thought it would be interesting to do. And in the vein of that, I thought, why don't we start with the man, the myth, the legend, Joker. So that's who this one's going to be on. But before we get into all that, just wanted to say if you guys enjoy what you see here today, then, leave a like, drop a sub, maybe even share it if you found that interesting, or if you thought it was, nice enough to share. But, yeah, since these are going to be taking a decent bit more time than what I would usually do, that would go a long way. I mean, obviously I do want to help grow the channel as well. That's one thing I do really want to do. So then it gives me more reason to do these, because I feel like these are going to be really fun to start. So without further ado, let us begin. So, I'd want to preface, my Joker is probably a good bit stronger than most people's, because I've just pulled for him constantly. Like, he's already at the point where he's almost maxed out. He needs one more copy and he's good to go. So just keep it in mind that the numbers you're gonna see on the gameplay segment is probably gonna be higher than you would see normally. But that doesn't mean that yours is gonna be that much worse. It just means mine is, more invested, which is fine. So just keep that in mind. One thing I would recommend is having his 5-star weapon, since honestly, it's not. You can see there's a good chunk less text, so that just based off that, it's, worth it to invest in his weapon. But without further ado, let's go and take a peek at what his skills do. So, his first skill is called Trickster's Plunder, and it is an AoE attack. It deals curse damage to all foes, and this is at its enhanced level where everything's cracked out. The max level normally is 10, but since I have him up so high, he's at 13. So it does an AoE curse damage, and this is a pretty low chance to inflict curse, but it's pretty much just damage over time. It's just there to help his third skill, which we'll get into. And then he gets this thing called the Will of Rebellion. I'm gonna call it Rebellion stacks throughout the rest of the video, just because it's, quicker and easier to understand. So that's what his first one does. His second is called Phantom Omen. This is a single target attack. And it pretty much, it's just, as you can see here, the numbers are a little higher, so it's going to hit harder than the other attacks in general on a single target. So you pretty much only ever want to use this one that's one target remaining. And as you can see right here, when only one foe is left or present, you get 2 Rebellion stacks, which specs into what he wants to do, which is he gets extra turns of it, basically, and when he gets enough Rebellion stacks, that's what happens. So these two feed into that. His third skill is called Arsene's Chains, and it is another AoE curse attack. Now, this is usually, when you get that extra attack, you usually want to use this, because it'll hit, as it shows right here, it'll hit 25% harder when it's on an extra action. And then when you attack foes with debuffs, which, in his optimal setups, or most setups, you're gonna want to have a debuffer with him. So then this deals even more damage as a result of that. Now, for his highlight, it is AoE curse damage, and it will give him 1 Rebellion stack at base level. It goes up to 3 if you have enough copies. I think it's awareness 4, but that's for our purposes here, that's not really gonna be relevant. So just remember that it gives 1. And then for one of his talents, he gets an 18% attack boost for Will of Rebellion stacks. And then his second talent, it increases the damage on extra actions. So that is right here. And then now we'll look at his awarenesses now. So most people's are gonna be awareness 0, which is just baseline. This is just what you get on him. So it says at the end of Ren's action, or Joker's action in this case, he gets 1 rebellion stack for each foe that has less than 60% health. So usually what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to have this guy go last in your attack lineup, just so he has a higher, chance of getting them low enough for this to proc. So let's say you're fighting 3 enemies, and they're at like 75% before he goes. And then he goes and he drops them to, I don't know, 59% HP. And all 3 of them drop below that. He doesn't just get 1 rebellion stack, he gets 3. So this just feeds into what he wants to do. And when he gets 3 rebellion stacks, this is what gives him his extra action. So this is basically what he wants to do. He wants to build rebellion stacks in order to get his extra action. And this is just a quality of life thing. I mean, more so just so the game's balanced, because if you kept popping these extra actions off, it'd be a little ridiculous. So basically, once you have that extra action, he will never be able to do a second extra action. It's just the one time per turn. So you basically get to do 2 attacks per turn with him if you're not doing the highlight. So pretty much that. And each time he uses this extra action, it spends 3 rebellion stacks. Then and his first awareness, this pretty much, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Blade from Honkai Star Rail, but this is pretty much the same thing. So basically it's a damage boost overall on his AoE attacks, but on the character you're targeting, so like, the little icon where you're targeting someone, that it'll do more damage to that guy specifically. Second awareness, this one is honestly the one where I would, if you just want to invest in him a little bit, and you don't want to like max him out all the way over here, then I would recommend maybe stopping here and then just moving on to other characters, if you even want to get him up here in the first place. But second awareness, on his extra actions, he decreases the SP costs of his skills by 80%. This is a lot. He's gonna be able to just keep hammering away because of this. It just makes what he wants to do so much easier. And as it shows right here, when he has 60% or more SP, he gets a 50% attack buff. This is like big. He does a lot of damage with this thing. So the 3rd, 4th, and 5th awarenesses are pretty, it's your normal stuff. It just increases the bread and butter stuff. So first skill and his highlight, 3 levels for the 3rd awareness, 4th awareness. This is probably the most unique one out of these 3 because it changes the 1 stack you would normally get for using the highlight for Rebellion, and it puts it up to 3. And then 5th awareness, this is where I'm at right now, is it increases his skill 1 and skill 2 by 3 levels. Now, if you happen to go all the way to get him to awareness 6, which I'm not at yet, but on this next rerun, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna max him out, and then I'll move on to other characters. So what this does, after taking an extra action, if there are foes with below 25% HP, so this is gonna be when they're really low. So you're not gonna see this as often, but it's still helpful. So what he'll do is when he hits this, you deal damage to said enemies up to 250% of his attack, and this can only proc once per enemy. And then after he uses the skill, or a skill on an extra action, he deals an extra instance of curse damage equal to 50% of his attack to all enemies. So this is pretty strong. This will be nice. But like I said, if you don't want to invest in him much, I think A0 is perfectly fine, but if you want to invest in a little bit, I would probably say go to 8-2 and then stop there. And then after that, it's just kind of the nice stuff, whatever, until you go to here to A6. Let's cover what the weapon does for the 5-star at least. So his 5-star weapon increases attack by 30%, and after he gets Rebellion stacks, his curse damage gets 10% bonus for 2 turns, and it stacks up to 3 times, so you get 30% buff. And when he is at 3 or more Rebellion stacks, it increases his next attack basically by 23%. One thing I actually realized I did not mention is that he can only ever have 5 rebellion stacks. I'm not sure if this is shown anywhere. Okay, it shows right here. No, it doesn't. But basically, you are only ever able to hold 5 stacks, and this counts when he's doing the extra action. So let's say you're at 5 and you're using the extra action and you're at 5 stacks. He uses it and then it takes away the 3. So you're at 2 after his action ends, the extra one. So just keep that in mind, you're only ever able to have 5. I'm not sure. Yeah, right here, up to 5. On to Joker's Revelation cards. So for the 4-piece, I would say you go for Hindrance, and then for the space card, I would say you go for Departure. So essentially what Hindrance does, the 2-piece, it increases curse damage by 10%, and the 4-piece increases curse damage to enemies with debuffs by 20%. And then what the Departure space card does for you is, after defeating an enemy, it increases the user's attack by 30% for 3 turns. For main stats, I would recommend that for your star card, I would say you either do crit molt, which is basically crit damage if you play any other games with like relics or artifacts or anything like that. So I would either recommend crit molt or crit rate. Those two are just going to be the best for him, and it's just going to either let him crit more often or crit harder. Now for the sky card, I would say that you would most likely want probably attack or attack molt, because once you hit a certain point, attack multipliers are helpful, but generally speaking I would say attack is just going to be your best friend here. And then for the moon card, I would say that attack is going to be your best friend here. And then the sun card, you don't really have a choice, it's kind of has to be HP, so you just kind of have to go with what you got. And then for the substats, again, I would pretty much say your 2 best friends here are crit damage, or not crit damage, crit molt and crit rate. After that, I would say you go attack percent and then attack molt. If once you hit a high enough attack stat, showed the order that I would recommend the skills to be leveled up. So first and foremost, I would say his skill 1, Trickster's Plunder, should go up because this is pretty much just the one you're going to be using all the time. Constantly, you're going to be using this one. And then I would say after that one, I would probably say the skill 3, Arsene's Chains, is worth leveling up next, because this one is, again, this is basically the one you're going to be using when you have the extra actions. So pretty much you're just going to be using these 2 skills for the grand majority of this guy's gameplay. And then third, I would say go for this, for his thief tactics, so it just basically enhances his highlight right here, gives it more damage. So I'd say that would be third. And then last, I would say Phantom Omen for his skill 2, because it's a pretty good skill, but the amount of times where you're going to be using the Joker for single target is not very often, so you can kind of hold off on doing this one last. On to Joker's teams. First and foremost, you have to bring Wonder in. So for him, I would say you either do something to either buff Joker, or what he would probably prefer is that Wonder gives the enemy's debuffs somehow. So maybe if you go through like a cert or someone else that can debuff the enemy, that's going to be what Joker wants more. But buffing him is also a good option here. Now for the other teammates, by far the highest recommendation I have is Rin, because she is an AoE debuffer, and the two basically go hand in hand. They're both curse damage characters, so if you're using one, you're probably using the other. The two of them work so well together, and Rin is so fast to the point where she generally outspeeds Joker, so that's actually a good thing because you want him to go later in the turn order. So by far, Rin is hers best. Now, depending on the situation, most of the time, I would say go for a healer. Now, again, this is depending on how your account is. It does change, because if you have someone like Marion or Minami, I would say she is probably the best that he has right now. And if you have her, you basically just rock Joker, Rin, and Marion in the same team, and you should be set up pretty well. But if you don't have her, then it's basically just whoever else you have on your team that can provide her with some heal, or him with some heals. If you don't need healing for the situation, this isn't always, but it can be occasionally. I would say someone like Cord is amazing. It just, buffs him, lets him do another highlight. Or maybe just another strategist, so someone else to just buff him up even higher. So maybe someone like Leon, or maybe like, I mean, you could use Harn. I don't know how much I'd recommend it though. But pretty much the main team I would say is you're gonna want Joker, Rin, and then Marion, or just your best healer. Now for the Navigator, I would say the best is probably going to be Phoebe right now, since she's the only 5-star Navigator in the game right now. She's just gonna be the best for most situations. If you need some defense, then Puppet's a really good option. I would say she's good too. If you can defend with her for long enough, then you can use her 3rd skill and then get a bunch of shield, and then she gives attack whiffs off that. You could go for someone like Tomoyama. So someone like Tomoyama, because she does give ailment accuracy, which does help some of the debuffers on the team, which, can be helpful, but I think I'd put her dead last. She's kind of just not as useful anymore. Now, if you can do weakness attacks and, reduce down points, I would say Wind is probably going to be your best option if you don't happen to have Phoebe yet, or whoever else for your Navi. Alright, so, you just built your Joker? How do you use him? Let me tell you exactly how he wants to play. His goal is to attack as much as possible. He does this by using his Rebellion stacks, of which he can hold 5 of, at most, at a time. How do you get these stacks? Well, there's a few ways, but let's go step by step. So, his first way is by using his first skill. This gives you 1 Rebellion stack just for using the skill. There's no strings attached, you just get it. And his second way is by having him attack an enemy, and then he hits them below 60% of their max health. Once this happens, he gets a stack as well. Now this can happen once per enemy, so if you're fighting 3 enemies and he gets 3 enemies below 60% health, then he gets 3 stacks. And the third way is that he can use his highlight attack. Now, by default, he only gets 1 Rebellion stack by using this. But if you have high awareness copies, then you can get 3, but generally speaking, you're only going to be getting 1. Let's now paint a situation that can happen in battle. There are 3 enemies, and it is Joker's turn. He has 0 stacks of Rebellion. All 3 of his enemies are at 80% of their max health due to your party attacking before Joker has. What's your first move? What your first move should be is to use his first skill. He then hits them and gets 2 or 3 of the enemies below 60% of their health. What now happens is that he gets the 1 stack from using his first skill, and 2 stacks from getting 2 of the 3 enemies below 60% of their health. And now, he gets 3 stacks, and now that he has those 3 stacks, he gets to use his extra action. And when you're in his extra action, you have 2 options. You can either use his first skill or his third skill. Your third skill is most often going to be the one used because, generally speaking, you're going to be using it with debuffers like Rin. So, this is going to be oftentimes your best option. Alrighty. So in our case, we have the Mangpo soup right here. So we're gonna use the third skill. That's what we would do. So this is what I would do. But let's say your Rin is not A1. First skill, right here with Underworld Fairy. Bam, they got the debuffs right here. You can see him. Joker's turn. Now you start with the Trickster's Plunder. First skill. You start with this. Bang. And he gets to go again. So if you guys noticed, what happened in that turn is he got the one Rebellion stack for attacking, and then he got one for getting this little red guy below that threshold, so below 60%. And this is something interesting that I have not mentioned yet, is that if he happens to kill someone that he didn't get a Rebellion stack from in that turn, he just gets the stack anyway. So again, let's just say he was at the blue guy's health right here, and he smacks the blue guy, and the blue guy dies. He gets a stack for that. Regardless of whether or not they die or not, as long as he drops them below that threshold, he gets this. So in most cases, you're going to want to use this third skill right here. And keep in mind this SP right here is not going to be for most of your Jokers. Mine is highly invested right now, so this is not going to be this low. Probably just be, I don't want to say it's normal, the normal cost. So pretty much you do this, and then as you see right here, since it's an extra action, we get an extra 25% attack right here, or extra damage, and then we get even more damage because these guys are debuffed. So let's do that. Boom. Alright, in this case, we're just gonna debuff with Wonder on this guy because we just need to get the turns going. We're good here. We're good here on health, so we don't need to heal. But we could have gone for like a heal here with Minami, but we don't need to, so it's fine. Your Navi, just do whatever you gotta do. We're just gonna pop shields here, just to do it. Now it goes back to Rin. After this, we're just gonna guard with her. We don't need to do anything with her right now. Now, in most cases, I believe you would have your Mongpo soup right now after doing that attack. But if you don't, just basically, if you don't have enough for the Mongpo soup, you would just keep using Underworld Fairy until you're good to go. And then once you have the Mongpo soup, it basically just, as you can, right here it says it doubles the damage increase taken from this skill. So we would be doing it. We would be doing this in most cases. So we'll just do this. Alright. Yep, they're going. Okay, so we're just gonna do this again, so we can see the extra action. Now in this case, what we could do is use the single target one, Phantom Omen, so we get 2 stacks, but we're maxed out here, so we can't do that. But we'll just show it anyway. Okay, so that's pretty much what your game plan looks like. You just keep doing that type of loop where you just keep debuffing the enemies, and then you have Joker just go in and get everybody low. And they get to use the extra actions, and you just keep looping like this until they either perish or they perish. So that's pretty much the loop you're going to be doing. I'll run this back real quick. We'll run it back real quick with the gameplay just so I can show you his highlight now. So we'll do that real quick. Okay. So pretty much this is just like a quicker version of what this is supposed to look like. And since they're low, we would just be going like this. And then you see right here it took 3 stacks, now we're back at 1. Okay, we should be about having our highlight now. Should be there. Here we are. Alright, so it's basically just damage. And then it'll give 1 rebellion for most people's jokers. Mine it gives 3 because of the awareness levels, but most of the case it'll just, you would see this one right here go from 1 to 2, but mine's gonna go to 4. And that's what it looks like. Honestly, one of my favorite highlights in the entire game. It looks really nice. I enjoy it. So we'll just end this fight real quick. And that'll be that. Let's grab it. And that is how you play Joker. Thus ends our first guide on the channel for Persona 5X with Joker. I hope everyone enjoyed what they saw today, and if you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and maybe even share. Now that this is the first one of these done, I would really appreciate it if you guys could show some support. It would really invigorate me and be able to make me do more stuff like this as we grow the channel. And with all that said, I hope you guys have an amazing day. Laters.